It was a Friday night that felt like any other. The energy in the arena was lukewarm, a low hum of routine expectation. In the ring, the current champion stood tall, fueled by arrogance and a 6-month undefeated streak. The audience had accepted this dominance as the status quo. They weren't cheering. They were waiting. Waiting for a commercial break. Waiting for the main event. Waiting for anything to break the monotony of absolute control. But the air inside the arena shifted before the cameras could catch it. You know that feeling when the barometric pressure drops right before a storm? The oxygen seemed to leave the room. The fans in the front row stopped looking at their phones. The referee froze, hand raised halfway to signal the bell, sensing a frequency that wasn't there a second ago. It wasn't a planned blackout. It wasn't a pyro malfunction. It was a disturbance in the reality of the show. The champion looked toward the entrance ramp, squinting through the harsh production lights. Confusion turned to irritation. They thought it was a technical error, a mistake by the production truck. But the darkness that followed wasn't an error. It was a canvas. Wait a minute, hold on. The lights are flickering in the Thunderdome. We're losing power at ringside. Is this part of the broadcast? I can't hear anything in my headset, Cole. The monitors are black. What is going on? Someone pay the electric bill. In that darkness, 10,000 people held their breath simultaneously. The silence was louder than any cheer. They knew. Deep down, they knew. The hierarchy was about to crumble. A single spotlight slowly fades up on the top of the entrance stage. A silhouette appears. It is small, unassuming, but the posture is unmistakable. Minimalist art style highlights just the outline and the way the figure tilts their head. Nostalgia is a powerful drug, but fear is a stronger one. When that first note hit the PA system, it didn't trigger happiness, it triggered shock. It was a sound that hadn't been heard in this arena for years. Sound associated with rebellion, with pipe bombs, with breaking the script. The silhouette stepped forward. No pyrotechnics, no dancing, just a slow, deliberate walk. The stickman animation focuses on the gait confident, almost skipping, terrifyingly casual. This wasn't a wrestler returning to work. This was a queen returning to an empty castle to burn it down. The camera cuts to the faces of the crowd, mouths agape, hands on heads, tears forming in the eyes of fans who grew up worshipping this figure. The noise level didn't rise gradually. It exploded. It was a wall of sound, a guttural roar of disbelief that shook the hard cam. The champion in the ring, previously untouchable, took a step back. That single step backward told the entire story. The predator had become the prey. Oh my God, are you kidding me? The unthinkable has just happened on SmackDown. The Black Widow is home. Listen to this place. She paused at the bottom of the ramp. She didn't look at the camera. She looked at the ring. The smirk was minimal, barely a line on her face, but it carried the weight of a decade of history. She wasn't just back. She was back to collect a debt. There is a specific kind of tension that exists only in the wrestling ring. It is the friction between the past and the present. The champion raised the title belt, a desperate attempt to assert authority. "This is mine," the gesture screamed. But the returner didn't flinch. She simply tilted her head. We see the vibration of the champion's hand holding the belt. Fear the returner reached out, not to strike, but to touch the belt. A gentle tap, disrespectful in its gentleness. Then the microphone was raised. No scriptwriters involved here. This was raw emotion bleeding through the screen. She spoke 3 words. Just 3. They hit harder than a steel chair. "Did you miss me?" The brawl that followed wasn't a wrestling match. It was a dismantling. The champion threw a wild clothesline. The returner ducked with fluid grace, a shadow slipping through fingers. Kick to the gut, a chaotic scramble. The commentary team couldn't keep up with the speed. Bodies flew over the top rope. The announce table was stripped. This was personal. This was the release of years of pent-up frustration. She's not waiting for the bell. She's tearing her apart. The champion is being hunted live on Fox. The segment ended not with a pinfall, but with the returner standing over the fallen body of the champion, holding the belt up high. Not in triumph, but in ownership. The symbol was reclaimed. The moment the segment faded to black, The real story began. Oh, wrestling isn't just about what happens between the ropes. It's about the seismic waves it sends through the world. Backstage, the gorilla position, the nerve center of the show, was in chaos. Producers scrambled. Writers threw their scripts for next week into the trash. The return hadn't been on the run sheet. Only 3 people knew. The locker room watched on monitors, a mix of excitement and terror. The young talent realized their spot on the card was suddenly in jeopardy. The veterans realized they had to step up their game. Social media didn't just trend. It broke. The clip of her entrance garnered 4 million views in 10 minutes. Oh, she's back. Was the #1 trend globally, beating out political elections and natural disasters. She walked past the interviewer without stopping. But then, a moment of humanity. She stopped at a secluded monitor where her husband stood. The stickman animation shows a simple embrace. No words, just the heavy exhale of relief. The pressure of keeping the secret, the pressure of the performance, the pressure of the legacy it all, released in that hug. This wasn't just a viral moment for the internet. It was a family reclaiming their narrative. The world saw a superstar. The backstage area saw a woman who had fought through injury, politics, and doubt to stand on her own 2 feet again. Why do they come back? It's the question everyone asks. They have the money. They have the fame. They have the scars to prove they gave enough. Why risk the neck? Why risk the legacy? As the arena emptied and the janitors swept up the popcorn, she sat alone in the locker room. The roar of the crowd was just a ringing in her ears now. The trending topics didn't matter in this quiet room. She didn't come back for the gold. That's a prop. She didn't come back for the money. That's just paper. She came back because the story wasn't finished. She realized that leaving on someone else's terms is a tragedy, but returning on your own terms is a triumph. Tonight wasn't about wrestling. It was about agency. It was about looking at the passage of time and refusing to blink. The screen fades to black, leaving only white text. The queen is dead. Long live the queen. But then a final twist. The audio lingers for 1 second too long. We hear a phone ring in the empty locker room. She picks it up.